Welcome back, Cherries fans, to this latest opposition preview show. So, after our win on a Thursday night against Swansea City, we now have another game on a Thursday night against West Ham. This might be something that we have to get used to next season. Fingers crossed. European trips, Moldova away. You never know. You never know. But of course, we are playing a team that have been spending a lot of times on Thursday nights, traveling all around Europe. So much so that they won it last season, winners of the Europa Conference League. And of course, have done pretty well in the Europa League as well. That team is West Ham United. And West Ham, of course, were the first visitors here this season in a 1-1 draw at Dean Court. Of course, that was early days for Iriola, and a lot has changed since then. For the Hammers, though, they sit in 6th place, and a lot has changed for them as well, because last season it was a little bit doom and gloom up at the London Stadium. Well, let's find out a little bit more about West Ham. David Moyes, of course, James Ward-Prowse, is he going to score a free kick against us? Probably. And it is a pleasure to welcome onto Up the Cherries in all departments, Lewis. Welcome to the show, Lewis. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks, mate. All good. Yourself?
Yeah, very, very well. And looking forward to this Thursday game. To be honest, we're not used to this, but of course, we played last Thursday because of Swansea in the Cup and it being on S4C of all channels. And we got another Thursday game, but you're quite used to this, aren't you?
We are, mate. Yeah. It's the last 3 seasons we've been playing on Thursdays, but the problem is with Thursdays is you've obviously got to play Sundays, so which is a nightmare for some fans.
Yeah.
We rarely get a Saturday kickoff now.
Yeah, I know. It's strange, that if we got into Europe, which is an absolute dream for this football club, that could be what we could be encountering next season. But I'll tell you what, let's start off with that Conference League win. What was that like?
Well, fantastic, mate. I mean, I'm 45 years of age, and I was 2 when we won the FA Cup in 1980. So for me to win, yes, we've won playoff finals and stuff, and we have won like the Intertoto Cup years ago. So we have kind of won trophies, but I think the way it was, last minute, Fiorentina were kind of the favourites for it. And to score in the last minute like Bowen, and as soon as he went through, you just kind of knew he was going to score because he's great in them positions. It was fantastic, and then you kind of think, actually, we last minute here, we're going to win this. They've got no chance now because with David Moyes, he's a very negative manager, so of course he's going to throw everyone on and park the bus. So we kind of knew that we'd kind of won it at that stage, but. It's fantastic, mate. I actually didn't think I'd ever see us win a trophy in my lifetime. So I know a lot of people, call it tin pot and whatever, a lot of other fans and stuff, but I'll take it. I'll take it any day of the week. It's a cup at the end of the day.
And I was actually in a bar watching that game, and the noise was just electric around me. It's a lot of people go on about Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, but West Ham have got such a big following. And do you feel that beforehand they've been a sleeping giant for just way too long?
Yeah, I think we obviously get a lot of opposition fans saying we're not a big club, etc. But we are, we're getting to be a big club now because obviously the stadium, etc. So we can fill it. There is most games we are filling it now. So whether that's tourists that come along, etc. as well. But we are near enough there for pushing 70,000. By the time they want to build on it and get more fans in there. So and we will fill that as well. So and if we can get European football as well, then it'll keep the crowds coming back.
No doubt. And as somebody who's got a lot of relatives and a lot of family members that are West Ham fans, I know the passion, of the Hammers fans. Upton Park was, an amazing stadium to go and visit. Going on to the London Stadium, do you just feel that sometimes, do you feel that the atmosphere is a little bit devoid in there, or has been a little bit devoid compared to Upton Park, which was, a traditional great stadium? Do you wish you could rewind and go back to those days?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of fans that. There's one guy who used to sell a fanzine outside the ground, and he's never set foot in the London Stadium. He said as soon as Upton Park's gone, that's it. That's it for me. So, and a lot of other fans feel the same. But yes, there is a lot of times when games it is extremely quiet in there. A lot of fans are saying it because it's David Moyes football. That's the reason why. Because we have got the exciting players, so there should be an atmosphere there. But there is games when I guess it depends on the opposition as well. If we're playing Burnley or someone at home or Sheffield United like we have done, that it has been very, very quiet. It is a struggle to get an atmosphere in that stadium, and I can see why a lot of people don't like it. It is horrendous at times, especially if you're sat right at the back, and you do need your binoculars. But it is what it is. We've had to move. We would all want to go back if we could. The owners have said, we'll move. We'll start throwing money about, etc. Yes, they've backed David Moyes and stuff, but they've not given him the money that we were promised. We were promised top 4 Champions League football when we moved, and obviously we've come as close as the Europa League. So at the moment we're going to have to go with that. But the stadium is, I think if we could all knock it down and rebuild another one or go back, then I would probably say 99% would want to return to Upton Park.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. And, from going there myself, it is that atmosphere of that old ground. And, it's just.
It's like your stadium,
Yeah.
What do you hold? Is it 11 and a half?
Yeah, it's about 11 really now. With all
But
hospitality.
it's so close net, isn't it? It's close to the pitch, and that's what you want. You want to intimidate the away fans, etc.
And it's also, if we moved, the lucky thing that we've got is that we've got the training ground, which is on the same site. So
Okay.
what the plan is going to be is to build on the training ground and keep it in the same location. If we was to move away from that location, which was muted a couple of times, I just don't think it would be the same, especially if it was a bit of an out of town ground. And that would be a real shame for me. But
I mean,
I know
is there plans to rebuild to build onto your stadium, or is there not?
it's all up in the air, but from what I've heard, it's going to be a brand new stadium. That's what I've heard. Eddie Mitchell did turn around, and the former chairman said that when he was in charge, there was plans to get it up to 22,000, which would have been just building on all 4 sides.
And would you be able to feel that?
I think we probably could at the moment. The only
Okay.
danger is if we are relegated. That is my biggest concern. Is if some fans have gone a little bit wild and said, "Wow, let's build 37." No, 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 no. If we build 37, there's no way that we will feel that. In the Premier League for big visits, teams like yourself, to be honest, I think fans will come. If we're playing somebody like Burnley and Sheffield United, no disrespect to them, we're not going to fill it, and definitely not in the Championship. So I think what they're doing is sensible, but I would rather they keep the old stadium and just build onto it, do it stand by stand, and gradually build it up to what we want it to be, which 22,000, I think, would be just fine for the future. But you did mention there as well, Lewis, about David Moyes, and he's a little bit of a Marmite character, isn't he, at West Ham? But he's done so well when you think that what was had come before him, I think he's done a pretty decent job.
He has done a decent job, and I think we can all see that. Even the MOYES outs like myself can see the job he's done, and 3 years of European competitions pushing for a fourth. I think for a lot of fans, it's the style of football. We're playing Sheffield United the other week, and he's setting up to defend and play for a point when a lot of other managers would be going for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of the fans. There is obviously inside the club, and has upset a few players. Ben Rama has gone backwards 4 hours, and it looks like they'll both be sold this window. Players have gone or regressed under him, and that is the problem. If he doesn't, if you're not part of the first team, he will out you. And there has been occasions when he just won't speak to them, or he'll just completely disregard them, and they'll end up in the reserves or just not playing. And Ben Rama, last year was decent. 4 hours has been decent up until this season. But that is the problem with David Moyes. And I think along with the negativity, style of play, etc., and the way he conducts himself to players and stuff, I think that's why a lot of fans do want him out.
One thing that I, encountered last season, and to be honest, I was a little bit destroyed by some of the fan base here, because there was a lot of people on Gary O'Neill's side, but a lot of people against him, believe it or not, even though I thought he did a fantastic job in keeping this football club up. But the big thing is that style of football. And when you go to football, you go to be entertained. But the danger as well, though, Lewis, is you could play fantastic football, but and we've seen teams play fantastic football and then get relegated. Would you not think that, by being a little bit more, cautious, like Moyes is, that might be a good way for West Ham?
Yeah, I think there is always that worry, isn't there, that we could have a manager that plays the style of football like yours,
Yeah.
Fantastic football, and you could be sniffing with relegation for a year or two. So you've always got that worry. You kind of weigh out: do you want David Moyes and the negativity football, but finishing top 7 and pushing for Europe, or do you want this? Like West Ham have always been, players like Alan Devonshire, and we've had managers that we've played superb football, and of course the older generation have seen that.
Yeah.
And then David Moyes comes along, and it's complete opposite. And there is always that worry that, because at the moment we don't know whether Moyes is staying. His contract's up in the summer, so we're kind of like call it quits sort of thing. And then obviously some wanting to stay because they are worried, like I say, that we could scrap a relegation. And unfortunately with West Ham, we'll have a season, or a good season or a bad season, and then we'll flirt with relegation, and then we'll have a good season, and then so there is always that worry. But we've got to move forward at some stage. Moyes is not going to be here forever, so like your manager's fantastic. I think he was one game from being sacked, and look how he's turned it around. So someone like that would be ideal. Obviously he's not, he needs more Premier League experience, but Xabi Alonso for me would have been the number one, but it looks like he's going to Liverpool. So, but we'll have to move on at some stage.
I got to be honest, I was one of those fans, when Iriola was going through that bad stage. And you've known me long enough now, Lewis, that I was very much like, something needs to happen. I even reverted to Jesse Marsh as an option.
Wow.
Not that I really wanted Jesse Marsh, but because I thought we're not winning games. We're not getting anywhere playing this style of football. And then all of a sudden it just clicked against Burnley, and we went on that fantastic run that's, got us into a position where we're actually thinking maybe actually we could get a European spot. It's crazy. Football fans are fickle, aren't they? But with regards to the European dream this year, it looks like it's going pretty well, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously we're into knockout stages, and it's always good to to finish top of the group in Europe, because you don't have to play till March then. So obviously we've
Yeah.
got another month before that, and we've got no qualifying to get through over 2 legs to progress. But obviously the teams that are down there are obviously the ones that come in from the Champions League, plus the big teams that are in there anyway. So it's a case of who we're going to draw and what we'll come up against.
But looking at the results so far, and it's only Olympiacos who have actually gone into the Conference League. You've won every game apart from that, and that was in Greece as well. Conceding only 3 goals, it's been pretty impressive. And could there be, another European triumph on the cards?
I can't see us winning the Europa, and I said that right at the start of the season. I said with the opposition that's going to be in that league is going to be very tough. I mean, I expected more teams. I thought Newcastle would probably end up finishing third and going down in it, but I think Europa League is probably going to be. It depends on the January window and who he brings in. Obviously, you've got Kelvin Phillips now, but there is talk that he's going to sell Cornet to Forest. Ben Rama's going to go. Fornals is going to go, and he's not going to bring anyone in. So this is the problem he had a couple of years ago when we tried to get top 4, and we're up there top 4, top 5. He kept flogging the same players like Dawson, who was absolutely shattered game after game. And that is, again, that's another MOYES thing. He will play the same players week in, week out. He'll flog them into the ground, and they just can't continue, and we'll end up falling away, and that is the problem. So obviously, if we can win the Europa, we'll get straight into the Champions League, which is great. Obviously, I would have taken Conference League again, because it's a weaker competition, and I'd love to have gone and win it again. I think Villa will probably win it this year. They've got a really good chance. I can probably see quarterfinals for us, obviously depending on who we get, but for me, quarterfinals at best.
No, fair enough. One thing I did say actually in one of the previews last season, because if we rewind our minds back to that game at Dean Court, which West Ham, you blew us off the park 4-0. It was a fantastic performance from West Ham. We weren't particularly good that day, but I'd rather give you credit than say that we were absolutely terrible, because it was a good performance. But before that game, I did, have quite a few conversations, and a lot of it was around there's too much focus on Europe. The players are very, very tired, but this season it seems to be the reversal, because West Ham are in Europe, already done very, very well in a stronger competition, and a 6th in the league. What do you think has been the difference this season?
I don't know really. Obviously, we've gone out of the FA Cup an earlier round, and as much as we wanted a cup run, with the League Cup, we got against Liverpool, and he played a weakened side. He, it's probably in a way it's probably best we did go out in competitions, because we just haven't got the squad to play in Europe, play in the league, and then 2 other competitions. So he has brought in extra backroom staff. Obviously, we've got much better players now, Kudos, etc., or Kudus. And I think he's probably changed a thing. I think he's probably gone on previous years and realised that he's probably done things a bit wrong. And he's tried to change things up a little bit, I think. And obviously, like I say, he's brought in some different coaches and stuff. So that kind of has helped at times. But when we are going to fall away, I still think we're going to fall away, and we're going to probably finish top 10. It's still a good season. I'm still be happy with that. If we can get to a semi-final maybe, or even a final, and take 10th, then great. But top 7 would be even better. I'd take again Conference League football again next season.
And to be honest, I can see you finishing in the European spots. I can
It
see you
depends how
finishing.
it depends how Calvin Phillips does.
Mm,
You know, with a whole package in it, with his wages, his loan fee, the bonuses,
yeah.
it works out. Bearing in mind he's only there for 4 months, it works out about 500 grand a week.
Mm,
So he's got to pull his finger out and do well for us, because we just got to hope he can be a bit injury prone at times. We just got to hope that he doesn't pick up an injury. He's out for 2 months, because it's a hell of a lot of money to spend. It's not a position we really needed to buy, to be honest.
yeah.
Again, it's a David Moyes negative. Let's buy a defensive midfielder rather than go for a striker, which we need. And that is the issue. There's now talk that Alvarez is either going to be shifted to centre back, or he's going to be out on the bench, whereas Souček is, as good as he is in the air, and he does pop up with goals now and again. He can be a passenger in games. He can go in first half and he'll make like 4 passes. He can be effective at times, but a lot of fans would like to see Alvarez, James Ward-Prowse, and Kelvin Phillips in there and drop Souček. But he seems to be like a Fellaini, because Moyes love Fellaini, Everton, and Man United, and he kind of sees Souček along them lines, and he never dropped Fellaini, so I can't see him dropping Souček. But obviously, then I'm worried about Alvarez, because he's a little terrier. He does get booked quite a bit, and I think that's what's frustrating Moyes, because we normally have quite a good disciplinary record. I didn't get any sendings off last season, and I think he's getting a bit frustrated with Alvarez getting booked quite a few times. And I think, obviously, because it can cost you games. You get one booking, in the 10th minute, you've got to go 80 minutes then, and being careful, etc. But it's not a position. Calvin Phillips is great. Don't get me wrong; it's a great signing, and we'll sell loads of shirts, and it'll bring the crowds in again. But it's not a position we really needed. We needed a striker, because Antonio's been out for 4 months. He's been playing Gerard Bowen up there, and he's not a striker. He can do the job, but we've seen at times, he switches him back out on the wing, and we're much more effective. Danny Ings is not going to, get us the goals, unfortunately. He's on 125 grand a week, so no one's going to take him off of us for that money. How he ever got that contract, I don't know. But so we've stuck with what we've got. But why Moyes doesn't go for strikers is beggars belief, really, because apart from Scamacca, he's not really gone and bought anyone, and that's the frustrating thing.
I can remember Ingsy when he was here. Very, very good player, but very young at the time, and of course got snapped up quite quickly. But let's mention about somebody who Bournemouth fans are all too familiar with. Probably for the wrong reasons, because he played for that lot down the M27, and that's James Ward-Prowse. He had very big shoes to fill, of course. In I'm sorry to mention his name, but Declan Rice leaving the club. But Ward-Prowse hasn't done too badly, has he?
No, he's got a fair few assists now. We're still waiting for that first free kick goal. Us fans have kind of joked about it and said it'd be typical. He'll join and he'll never score a free kick again. I think a lot of teams are learning now that you can't give free kicks in these positions, because he doesn't really get that many chances from free kicks. He might get the odd one in 3 or 4 games, but he doesn't get half as many as he did at Southampton. So I think a lot of teams are learning now. Unfortunately, but I was delighted with the signing. I thought it was a great signing. It's not just what he does on the pitch. He's a great role model off of it. You won't see him like Rashford going to nightclubs and getting in trouble, etc. So he brings a lot of happiness and joy to the dressing room as well. So, but his set pieces have been fantastic, and we've got a hell of a lot of goals this season from his corners. But like I say, it'd be lovely for him to pop up with a free kick. But no, I'm delighted we've got him. I just hope he's not going to be dropped for Calvin Phillips.
Well, it's going to be sod's law, because I'm sure he's probably going to score a free kick against us. I wouldn't be surprised. He seems to, well, he did enjoy scoring them against us. But yes.
Do you remember Pyatt scored that free kick against you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, he was a fantastic player. Paqueta, of course, is an outstanding player.
And I'm hoping he's going to be back as well. So for Thursday, there's talk he's going to be back. So
yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, from our perspective, but Paqueta, absolutely outstanding player, and somebody who I think without Paqueta in the side, West Ham don't take. It took him a little while to get going, didn't it? Really, at the start.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, we were kind of, what have we bought here? He's cost us over 50 million. And is he actually worth that? Obviously, transitioning into the Premier League a lot faster, and he was taking a lot more kicks to the ankle, etc. So once he, found his feet, yeah, he's been phenomenal. There has obviously been games when, he's been completely anonymous, and then he'll pop up, with 10 minutes to go, and he'll either, like the European final where he just played that ball through to Jared Bowen. He's got that in his locker. He can do that, and I think that's why we love him, because like I say, he can go 85 minutes with doing nothing and then play the perfect ball, or dummy some player and take him completely out of the game, etc. So he's wonderful, and it'd be a shame to lose him to City, but obviously the betting scandals, etc. That could take a good 18 months. So he has got an £85 million clause in there, but you're not going to go in for him until this is all, he's been found not guilty, etc. So hopefully for another 18 months, he's going to be with us.
Yeah, well, hopefully, fingers crossed for you guys, because let's be honest, Man City can buy everybody, can't they? But the defence hasn't been too bad at all, really, for West Ham. The goal difference isn't that big, but at the same time, defensively, been fairly solid.
Yeah, Agued's not turned out to be the Rolls Royce defender we were hoping for, and Moyes chased him for 3 years, and I think he's realised that he can't really do it in this league, which is unfortunate. And when you're chasing a player there, you think he's going to be perfect for you, and it turns out that he's got a few errors in him. And now there's clubs in Saudi, so when he comes back from the AFCON, hopefully he'll either stay, which we want him to stay, and he'll start performing again, or we'll have to be sold. And Zuma, his knees have gone. Personally, I think he's only got a couple of years left before he retires, because both his knees are absolutely shot to pieces. He's like a Ledley King. He rarely trains, because he just can't do it. Someone watched a video the other day of him doing some sort of jumps in training, and he was told not to do it because his knees are that bad. And so someone said he's like he's running a nappy full of crap. The way he runs sometimes with his legs, etc. Because he kind of does run like he's got a nappy full. As good he is as again, he's if you've got a player like Dominic Solanke, who's got a bit of pace on him, and he's got no chance of catching him up. So Emerson's been great for us at left back, attacking left back. He's been brilliant. He's been a great find, and he's kind of won every European trophy now as well. So, and Kufau, still kind of 50-50 on him. He hasn't got the pace, but he can put in a great ball sometimes. But I think we still need a backup, or for next season we're going to have to try and find a proper right back who's got pace, can get back, etc. Because we can get quite exposed. And I am worried about Dom Solanke on Thursday against our lot. We've got Mavropanos in there, who's again been hit and miss. Scored played a blinder at Arsenal, scored, and then he's against Bristol City in a cup, he's made a howler. Didn't play too well. He scored an own goal at Brentford earlier in the season, and didn't have a great game at Sheffield United. So, and of course you've got Ogbonna there as well, but he's 35 and he can only play now and again, really. So, yeah, I think if we can find a decent centre half next year, obviously depending on whether Moyes is here or not, then it'd be a shame to see someone like Zuma go, because I think he's been brilliant for us. But again, he's not going to last much longer. And Agued, I think this league's just too much for him.
looking at the fixtures in the Premier League, you know, you have only had one defeat since the start of November. That one defeat, though, was at Craven Cottage, and you know, I remember watching that game. And from a West Ham perspective, what did you make of it? Because it was a bit of a shambles, really, wasn't it?
It was terrible. And even like I said, Mavropanos, he had a really bad game that game as well. And he played Ogbonna, who's, again, you know, he just can't do it against certain teams. He kind of put out a kind of weaker side against that Fulham game, because we had the Liverpool game coming up in the Cup, which he ended up playing a kind of weaker side again anyway. But what a terrible performance. I mean, we always beat Fulham home and away. So I kind of knew at some stage, you know, we're going to end up losing to them, but I didn't expect us to roll over as much as that and get battered. And considering they scored, you know, they won 5-0 the week before as well. Very disappointed with that performance. Okay, we've gone and beaten Arsenal after that. So, but we have got this in us where we can just, you know, totally roll over, get absolutely annihilated, and then turn up next week and be absolutely brilliant. The only thing is, again, with David Moyes, is a 5-0 for us is very rare. You know, we don't normally tend to, or we'll have one or two a season and that will be it. We don't really tend to concede too many with him, but that 5 was, you know, they're not a great Fulham side. You know, without Mitrovic, I couldn't see him scoring that many goals this year, but you know, they scored 10 in 2 games then. But they are a decent side.
Like you said, you beat Arsenal after that. You beat Manchester United, Chelsea. You've beaten Spurs this year. So there's a lot of quality in the West Ham side. You did mention there, you know, a top 10 finish would be a good season for West Ham. You know, if it's any lower than that, you know, surely, even if Moyes does want to stay on, do you think that his time is up?
Again, I think it depends on where we finish. I think if he does get us into Europe for a fourth time, then I can see him staying. But it may be a rolling contract. Whether he'll accept that is another thing. But I think the board are completely torn about what to do. They know that fans are not happy. They also appreciate that there is fans that are Moyes in and for what he's done for us. And had we not won that competition last year, he would have gone, and that's kind of saved him. And it saved him. It potentially will save him again next season. Again, I will take 10th if it means a semi-final or a final, or like I say, winning something. But 10th is not going to be too bad. We expect to fall away at some point. Because we just haven't, especially if we end up losing 3 or 4 players this window, we are going to fall away. And obviously teams like Villa don't seem to be going anywhere at the minute, and they just seem to be up there, and they're, you know, not falling down at all. So I wouldn't be too disappointed with 10th. I think anything lower I would be, but especially as we've been up there again for pretty much most of the season, really. So but then, you know, we could end up losing games, like we could end up losing to you on Thursday, which I'm, you know, 50-50 on how that's going to turn out. And then we could end up turning City over at the Etihad. So it's just how West Ham are, really.
Of course, we this season are playing a very high press, and rather than what we were doing earlier on in the season, which was passing around a lot and very, very slow build-up play, it's now a lot more direct with that high press from the start. How do you think West Ham will cope with that?
Well, we saw against Villa, who play, you know, such a high line as well, and we got battered 4-1 there, and it could have been a lot more. So there is always that worry. I mean, we obviously play with a low block, very defensive, etc., and teams do find it hard to break us down. Some teams just can't, like Chelsea. You know, they just can't seem to break teams down with a low block. I do worry, like I say, the pace of Solanke. I do kind of find it strange that teams don't with such a high line, they don't put balls in over the top or through for players to run onto. We're playing such a high line. If you had someone like Antonio, then I'd be going for that tactic of just either putting balls over the top. If you can time your run properly, you've got every chance. But Solanke, and I think you've got a couple like Kluivert, etc. If you've got any pacey players there, then I do worry that our backline are not going to be able to keep up with. And Solanke's in hell of a form as well.
Yeah.
He's going to be looking for another goal or two. So it does worry me, the high line. If we play it like we did against Villa, then we're in for a tonking.
He was linked with West Ham, of course, Solanke. I'm sure you probably would have been quite happy with the signing.
Do you know what? I've kind of looked at his stats before this season, and it wasn't something like 1 in every 20 games or something. It was something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was, right at the
he was
start.
scoring like 3 or 4 a season, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He obviously didn't have the right manager, and he's now got that, and he's given him so much confidence. When we were linked with him in the summer, it was like 40, 50 million. And I thought, for a guy who's, he obviously offers a lot more than scoring.
Yeah.
He does a lot more than that. But I thought, is he going to be worth that much for a player who's got 1 in 20? But that would be an absolute snip or a bargain, if we were to go for him now. And I think he would probably be a great replacement for Antonio. But what Bournemouth are going to want is going to be silly money, I think.
I think really where Solanke come into his own was, and I know this sounds really stupid for me to say this, but was the 2 seasons we were in the Championship when we got relegated. I think it actually did him a massive favour for his actual career, because those 2 seasons, he come into his own and then has come back into the Premier League and hit the ground running. And like you say,
he rarely gets injured as well, doesn't he? Which is great.
He's never been injury prone. I can't even remember the last time he was injured. I think he missed a game last season with but then he was straight back.
And he doesn't go flying into tackles either.
No.
So disciplinary is very good as well. And I think you have to kind of look at that side of things as well and think, that could be potentially another extra 5-10 million on top, because he never gets injured. He's always available.
But what he does as well is he pulls the ball back for Kluivert, for Billing. Phil Billing's fantastic player. Those two work really well.
Another player we've been linked with as well.
Yeah. And there's rumours doing the rounds today that Eddie's coming in for him. So touch wood that doesn't happen. There is also rumours, and believe it or not, it was quite funny. I was speaking to Alan Pardew a couple of weeks back about this, and I spoke about Eddie Howe, and it was a case of I could see him coming in for Phil Billing and offering Callum Wilson as bait effectively. And it seems like that is something that is doing the rounds. Now, whether or not there's any truth in that, who knows?
But would you take Callum Wilson back? He's obviously on a lot more money than he was at Bournemouth, and you've obviously got Dom Solanke playing up there. So is he going to get much game time?
I would say he's Kiefer Moore at this moment in time. I just don't feel that he's quick enough. I don't feel that we play to his strengths, getting the ball into the air onto his head. So Callum Wilson would definitely, without a shadow of doubt, get game time, whether or not it be with Solanke or coming on from the bench. But I wouldn't bring him back if it's a swap for Billing. Even if it's a swap for Billing and a bit of money as well coming from Newcastle, I still wouldn't do it, because I think Phil Billing, he's a confidence player, but he does so much. Again, he's a bit like Solanke.
He's a bit underrated, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And I think at Huddersfield, they didn't really see, the best of him, because but playing in that role just behind Solanke, where he's pairing up with him and will retrieve the ball back. He's not particularly great in the air, but he's got a lot better. That was one of the first things that I noticed about him when he first joined. Was we signed this 6'4" forward, midfielder, kind of advanced midfielder, and he's useless in the air, but he's got a lot better. But it's what he does with his feet, and I think he's a fantastic player. So I'd rather keep Billing at this moment in time than have Callum Wilson back. But then again, touch wood, Solanke, like you say, isn't injury prone. If he does get an injury, though, we've got problems because we've got to either play Semenyo in that role, who is able to do it, but is kind of untested at this level. Or we
Kiefer
go with
Moore, who's
Kiefer Moore.
terrible.
Yeah, I just don't feel that. I like Kiefer for what he did at the end of the championship season. He was instrumental in getting the club over the line. Is he a Premier League player? Unfortunately, I don't think he is. His pace isn't there. He's a target man. The perfect club for him, Lewis, would be Everton.
Mm-hmm.
Everton, get the balls into the box, get his head on it. He'd probably score quite a few there. But the way we play is just not his style. And you've either got to go with one way or the other. And if we adapt the team for Kiefer Moore, I think that the whole basis of what Iriola has built up will just kind of go by the wayside. So
your manager must see something in him, though, because he's, there's no talk of him going in January, and you'd think a club in the Championship would be coming in for him in January. But
I wonder if it is because he thinks that he's the only option of backup. I would fully expect him to go in the summer. There has been links, but those links have been Championship clubs. Whether or not he's reluctant to go to the Championship, who knows? But I don't think, and this is it. It hurts me to say this because he's done so much, but I don't think with his pace and the way we play, this is the right club for him anymore. It probably was under Scott Parker. It was in the Championship.
yeah,
It isn't. A Bournemouth in the Premier League under Iriola isn't the right club for him.
well, as long as you don't get Callum Wilson before Thursday, because he's got a great record against us. So if he does come back, as long as it's next season, because he scores for fun against us.
Yeah, I remember that 4-3 win up there.
Your first season up, wasn't it?
It
Was
was
second or third game in? It was, and you tore us to shreds.
Yeah, it was the first win in the Premier League, so we remember that one quite well. Quite fond of that one. But Lewis, I ask every guest who comes on this show. You know what I'm going to ask? It's predictions time. We've had 3 people bet against their own team. Are you going to be the fourth, or are you going to go for a West Ham win?
I'm going to be the fourth. I'm going to go. Unfortunately, I'm a very pessimistic fan. That's only because apart from last season winning that trophy, I've seen us blow so many games and semi-finals and finals, etc. So I actually think Bournemouth will win 3-1. I think you've got a very good chance. I think Solanke's on fire, like I say, and I think if you turn up with your passing, because it's a completely different game to start of the season when we drew 1-1. You've got a brand new manager coming. The players don't know how he wants to play, and he's obviously tried to install that over the summer, but it's taken a bit while longer. But I just think hopefully Kudus will be back from AFCON, which is great. So we have got a chance with him, and if Paqueta comes back as well, then that's great. We have got certainly a chance because we don't really score that many goals when they're missing, but I just think Bournemouth are gonna probably pay back for that 4-0 last season. And I hate betting against my club. Sometimes it's reverse psychology. I do it because I back against us. I never bet on it. I just back against us and we end up winning. So, but I'm happy to be proved wrong if we're winning. So,
yeah.
But my prediction will be 3-1 Bournemouth. How about you?
I've tried that before, reverse psychology, and it seems to be that I get it right at that point. But I'm not going to bet against my own team. I think we are in decent form. We've had a couple of hiccups. We've had the Liverpool game, the Spurs game. Would I call them hiccups? I don't know whether or not really you could. They're bonus games for me. But I feel that there is, the window will be closed, and I think the players will want to prove a point. I do think that James Ward-Prowse is going to score a free kick against us. That would not surprise me one bit. I'm going to go a little bit closer though than what you think, Lewis. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, and I reckon Solanke, and I think Cliver is playing some of the best football he's ever played in his entire career here. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, but we shall see. We shall see. And who knows? The reverse psychology might work, Lewis.
You might do. I blooming hope so. Would you? I mean, coming back to you, I mean, would you be worried that you're going to lose your manager next year, potentially, or do you think he's here for a good couple of years?
Do you know what? After the Everton game, I was like, well, there's me going on about Jesse Marsh and how I don't think his style is going to adapt into the English league. And like I say, football fans are fickle. I'm fickle because I am now very, very worried. I even think that he is probably a perfect fit for Liverpool.
Okay.
I'm hoping that none of the directors at Liverpool are listening to this. But one thing as well that is come out is that Liverpool are after Richard Hughes, who of course is our director of football,
Yeah.
and who was responsible for sacking Gary O'Neill and bringing in Areola. So,
which was a harsh decision at the time, wasn't it, Gary O'Neill?
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
You'd have probably been happy for him to stay on, wouldn't you?
I would have been delighted for Gary O'Neill to stay on. I think he did a fantastic job considering, I know he's, played for West Ham, but Scott Parker and one thing with Scott Parker, going back to the memories, of the season we actually went up, there was a lot of games where, we should have been beating teams like Peterborough, Derby, Reading. These teams, we should have been beating, teams in the lower end of the table. Rotherham was another one where we just seemed devoid of ideas, or he would make these substitutions, against Reading at home. We should have been about 5-0 up. And then what he's done is he's changed the whole formation. And we was lucky to escape with a 1-1 draw in the end. So it was a very, very negative, his sort of style. And Gary O'Neill got the team playing forwards a little bit, but again, the football wasn't particularly great. I'm the first to admit that. I'm a big advocate of Gary O'Neill. He's a lovely, lovely man, and I met him personally, and I thought, he speaks so well. But was the football that great to watch? No, not particularly. There was one or two glimmers, like against Leeds when we beat Leeds 4-1. That was a great performance. When we beat Spurs 3-2 up there, but as you saw last season, the 4-0 capitulation. I
And
know.
we were terrible last season. Even
Mm,
coming up to that game, we were struggling to stay up. Really, we had to really get some wins together because there was a potential we were going to go down. So I was very surprised to see that result last season.
Well, I was gutted that day that Gary O'Neill was sacked. But knowing a little bit about Spanish football and Vallecano, I thought actually with Iriola, that makes sense. It was a case of I think that the board thought if we don't do it now, we're not going to get him, and he's just he's a quality manager. Of course, we didn't see that at first, but it's now all come together, and it's a delight to watch. It's completely different. It's probably more towards Eddie Howe's style of football, and
Right.
you know it's remarkable. It's just beautiful don't think. In fact, I think, dare I say this? This could be, considered as blasphemy here, but could it be classed as better than Eddie's football? Quite potentially so.
I think another thing for me is the our pitch is so big. Man City love coming to our stadium because of the pitch. You know, they can pass it around for fun. And I think another thing tomorrow, that could be an issue. Thursday, that could be an issue with your passing, because obviously that's what you're all about.
Yeah.
And you've got a great size pitch there to do all that. And I think, you know, you could really wear us out with your passing, because like I say, Man City, you know, they tear us apart home and away, especially at our ground. So we'll have to see see how it goes.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Lewis, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
No
And no
problem.
doubt we'll catch up later on in the season and also next season as well. I'm sure we'll be here.
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah, please do. And, you know, if you want me to come back on, you know, during this season and again next season, you know, please give me a shout. It's been great.
Yep, not a problem at all. It's been a pleasure, Lewis.
All right, Craig, take care, mate.
Cheers, mate.
See you soon.
And thank you everybody for joining us. Please remember to hit the like, the subscribe, the bell button below to be alerted to any new videos we do here on Up the Cherries in all departments. Please do also check out our recent interviews. We did have Peter Hooton from the farm all together now. Of course, we've also had Damon Minchella as well on this show. That was last season. He's an Everton fan, believe it or not. So we've had Liverpool and Everton musicians. And we've also had somebody from the call centre who supports Swansea recently. So do go and watch all those interviews as well. And do remember, we did have Chris Akabusi on this very, very show. So go and watch Chris's interview as well. Of course, it was a great laugh, absolute pleasure, and a gentleman as well, Chris is. So do go and check it out. But until the next show, up the cherries, and we'll see you, well, in the next one. Yeah, in the next one. I'm getting used to these Thursday nights now. See? Well, not really, but let's hope that we can get the 3 points at the London Stadium. See you in the next video.